Another week, another Spurs masterclass in disappointment. That loss to Villa meant we've won 3 of our last 18 home games in the Premier League. Vicario had his concrete boots on. We had Tell and Odobert up front. Powder Puff, Palhinha and Bentancur in the middle. I don't know. Thomas thought we played okay, but are we getting a bit disillusioned with him? The atmosphere. Now, it was about as cacophonous as a queue at the post office. Now, and the other thing is, should old people like us, should we be shouting and singing anyway? Is it appropriate? Modern players, they can pull a hamstring tying their laces, can't they? And they're out for months, whereas someone like Dave Mackay, he once played on with 3 broken legs. So this, that's the spirit we're looking for now. And getting through the turnstiles, I don't know, getting stuck in the security queue and then waiting for that green light when you flash your phone at it. It's kind of pre-match stress we don't need. There's enough stress to come. Anyway, Monaco Wednesday, Everton at the weekend, and the eternal question remains, why do we do this to ourselves? Welcome to Nice One Cyril. Nice one, Cyril. Okay, well, here we are again. With me today we have Dame Julie Welch and Kevin Acott. And we've got lots to talk about today. And we sadly have to start with that performance against Villa. Julie, take us away.
Right. All I'm going to say is that this morning I woke up from a very, very vivid dream in which I'd been ranting about Thomas Frank. And I actually said in my dream, he's like the gong with no dinner. Now, I don't know where that came from at all. But I was so underwhelmed. I mean, bloody hell, you'd have thought, wouldn't you? Home game against the Villa. Okay, they've come round a bit since a rather poor start to the season. But, a confession here. After Rodgers' goal, I sort of half dropped off. I went to Sainsbury's. I took my phone with me and kept looking at it. It was just terrible. And I thought, this coach who, we've been turning into a modern saint, basically, he's been completely outfoxed by the 2 worst defeats of the season, in my opinion, by Bournemouth at home, and now by Villa, by Iraola and by Emery. And I thought, is Frank all he's cracked up to be, really?
We'll do a deep dive into Frank after we've kind of maybe deconstructed the performance. Kev, I don't know, he went with the Palhinha Bentancur axis again.
Yeah.
Which we've talked about before. We're at home, all right, playing a decent side, but it kind of, for me, it sends out the wrong message. And it says we are looking to be solid and, kind of just sort of find a way to win it. Whereas, we want, we're desperate for the Bergvalls and others to be making us look like a team with a bit of flair. We had a powder puff forward line, and even Kudus started to struggle. They stuck about 5 men on him, and he had no one to pass it to. So what's your take on the overall selection and the individual performances and collective performance?
I did say this before, and I'm sure I wasn't on my own. I think everyone probably said why Bentancur and Palhinha don't. Okay, we're down Maddison, we're down Kulusevski, so it's hard to find a great creative midfield, but there was that felt like a lineup for an away game, and an away game against a really good team. And I saw an interview with Thomas after, and he was saying, can we call him Thomas? I just called him Thomas.
Yes, yeah. Come on, we can be familiar.
Yes, and in the interview, he was sort of saying this was basically 2 good teams, and it could have gone either way. And Villa were a horrible team. They're a horrible team. Horrible last year. They're horrible this year. They did produce a couple of moments of real flair, and they scored, but they were there for the taking. They're a mid-table team. So that was the first mistake was that setup in midfield, I think. But then individually, no one played well. Kudus did. Palhinha did, actually, for the whole match. Kudus did in the first hour maybe. Bringing on Richarlison. I mean, the timing of the substitutions was too late, I think. Bringing on Richarlison made absolutely no difference. It just reduced our threat to 0 from 1. It was just, it was horrible. This is most depressed. And I've realised how angry I am now. I was just depressed yesterday and all day today. And then I realised I feel let down. I feel let down by Mr. Frank, and I feel let down by those players as well.
Yeah, it was a kind of, I mean, I think if we'd won it 2-1 or we'd drawn it 1-1, I think we'd have said, yeah, it was okay. It's fair enough, not too bad. But there was a moment in the second half when it was at 1-1, and I was thinking, God, Villa, they're horrible, and they're sort of workmanlike, grafting, uninspired and uninspiring team. And then I thought, oh, you know what, so are we. And it depressed me to think, with these two sort of, teams with good players. I mean, I like Rodgers. He's a tremendous player. Who scored the second goal? What's his name?
Buendia.
That's the fella. These are good players, and we've got a few players with flair. But poor old Simmons, Julie, he struggled, didn't he? And I always wondered if he'd struggle in a match like that, where there's just two teams, slugging it out. There's no finesse going on, and he's just going to get lost in that mayhem.
He's about as solid as a cocktail stick at the moment, and nobody passes to him. Have you noticed?
Yeah.
Do they not like him? I mean, I know his nickname at PSG was Princess. I mean, maybe they've taken against him. I don't know. I mean, it's just a thought, isn't it?
It is. I mean, we didn't have our line-breaking passer in the back four, did we? Romero got him. He did one of those, tweaks of the elbow 10 minutes before the match. So we lost a bit of that. We also, I just wonder with that setup, Simmons is, you're right, no one seems to be passing to him. And I wonder if that's because of the setup, because what we're trying to do all the time, to me, is just get it out to the wingers. So someone like Simmons, who's a creative, crafty player on the ball, is just getting overlooked. I mean, Kev, I'm not going to lose faith in Simmons just yet, but there is an element that, does he fit in with a typical Frank team?
I think we have to, if we're going to play him, we have to play to his strengths. And no, we're definitely not. And they're not passing to him. He needs to be running that midfield. And I don't know who's running the midfield. I think this sort of defensive sort of attitude is running the midfield, this sort of sideways passing. I think if you're going to have someone who's potentially as creative as him, then we have to trust him and we have to build things around him, and it's not happening. I feel sorry for him at the moment. I mean, it may turn out that he just doesn't have what we're hoping he has, but I think we need to give him more of a chance. I actually, and I know last week I was talking about Johnson and not particularly rating him. I don't really get why we didn't have. I think we'd have been better with Johnson on from the start. And the thing that most bugged me, I think, in the end, was the reliance on the long throws as our only strategy to try and score. They're not even very good long throws. We actually did right, I think, just after half time, I think. Was that a long throw where we almost sort of accidentally scored from one? It really felt like no one knew what else to do apart from rely on the long throws. As an addition to, our sort of arsenal, I think it's, if you excuse that word, it's great, but as the only way of attacking, which is what it became in the second half, it's just horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
And I think I agree with that. And it doesn't help when our wingers, I mean, they tied up Kudus in the end, although I thought he started pretty well. Odobert, I really want to love Odobert because I can see some talent there. But he seems to be a player, Julie, without kind of the force of personality to impose himself. So he had a couple of good runs at the beginning, and then Cash got to grips with him. And it wasn't just that he stopped going round Cash, he stopped even trying to go round Cash. So there's your winger doing nothing, apart from coming inside, passing it inside to Paulinho or Bentancur. And our mate Tell, who was playing, bless him, at centre forward and invisibly so, I do wonder, we talk again, this is my Mikey Moore moment, but are those two as a left wing option any better than Mikey Moore would have been this season? Because we know he's a great finisher, or even Solomon. I mean, are they better than those two? We've shipped out two players who might actually have been useful.
I don't know about the deal with Rangers and Mikey Moore. I mean, can he be recalled in January?
I haven't seen the contract, Julie, but there is talk. Certainly Gary of Harlow has suggested on Twitter that he can be recalled. But the whisper is that if they recall him, it's because the loan is wrong for him and they'll loan him out somewhere else. But I'd rather see him playing for us.
To Odobert, as you know, I think Tell has got a lot going for him, or potentially has a lot going for him. I'm not quite so sure about Odobert. He reminds me ever so slightly and fatally of, do you remember Nkudu?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is just about, 10% above Nkudu level. And Clinton Ng, that was the other one, who you might or might not remember. There's just that slight kind of Nkudu taint about Odobert that I'm seeing.
Is he better than Jimmy Neighbour?
Is he better than Jimmy Neighbour? Well, he is now, because Jimmy Neighbour was okay. I mean, a player of his level would never have got into this Spurs side, of course. But he was a nice lad, wasn't he?
Seemed like a nice boy. Yeah, he seemed like a nice lad. One other thing I just wanted to bring up before we get on to ripping Thomas Frank a new one is on the left-hand side, given that Odobert became less and less effective as the match wore on, I think Udogie's, absence became all the more kind of amplified. I think he's our best winger, frankly, on that side right now. Spence, I bow to no one in my admiration for Spence. I think he's a fantastic player, but what he can't do is go outside. He defends like he's like a wall. But when you're breaking, you need someone to go on the outside and swing in some decent crosses. And I think that's Udogie in the absence of a really effective left winger. It's a shame that he wasn't available.
Yeah. No, I agree. And as you're saying that, I think this comes back to the thinness of our squad and the fact that there are positions with no one, apparently, to really fill them effectively. And that makes no sense to me, because it's not, whatever you think of Levy and the way the club's been run, it's not that we haven't spent money. It just feels like we've spent money badly over the last few years. And we don't have a really good striker. We don't have a really good left winger. I'm not sure we have a great goalkeeper, and that's wrong. We should.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I think we was collecting left wingers, and we already had Solomon and Mikey Moore there, and I just don't understand. I can't see anything really in Odobert or Tell at the moment, anyway, to suggest that they are improvements. And Julie, let's have a little chat, shall we, about Flappy. He wasn't actually flapping at anything much in the match, but I felt that he was kind of rooted to the spot for both of those goals. And we can argue, I mean, that perhaps nobody would have saved that shot by Rodgers. It was a cracking shot, and it was a good little curly shot by the other fellow whose name I can't remember, even though you just told me his name. Yeah. For both of those goals, Vicario was positioned to one side of the goal. So he had no chance of getting across. He was too close to his left-hand post for both of them, in my view. It's easy to be, I don't want to be a Monday morning quarterback here, Kev. We'll come on to those in a minute. But it did seem to me as though, I hate blaming him for everything, but he might have done better, Julie.
I just wonder whether Romero's premature departure and bringing in Danso just for some reason altered the kind of plan, the balance, the pattern, and maybe that had something to do with it. But I don't see Mr. Vicario, as a particularly intelligent kind of keeper. He's very acrobatic and has great flexibility. But in terms of anticipation, actually, I could bore on about this for hours, and I'm not going to. I think you get the picture. I don't think he was impressive. The last couple of seasons, particularly when he first arrived, I thought, great, here's an upgrade because Lloris was kind of, reaching his dotage. But he hasn't really kind of come on at all, I don't think. I would really like to see Kinski given a shot myself.
There was also Kev, Christ almighty, but at least for the first half an hour, we were playing out. And that's something, I would say it's new, but we've been mixing playing out with going long. And I don't know if that was some tactical idea in order to somehow bring Villa onto us, and then we escape their kind of curtain of pressing players and get away from them. But it was seat of the pants every time. I don't think there was one kind of sequence of playing out that didn't end with us giving away a fucking corner or looking like they were going to score. It was horrible. Was that a tactic? Was that specific tactics for Villa? And if so, why did we persist with it for so long?
I don't know. And again, whether that was something relating to Romero's injury, I don't know. It's horrible. I mean, I thought we'd got moved beyond that. I think most clubs have started to move on from that because it's horrible. And unless you're very, very good, you've got very good goalkeeper and some very, very good defenders, it's just putting yourselves at risk. And Vicario does not do that well, and nor actually do our defenders. So I don't get it. I mean, I think this comes back to Thomas again. Presumably they were told to do that. He obviously had an idea about that, but it wasn't working. One more thing, there was a bit of Vicario's performative nonsense as well. I can't remember which defender. It was up our end, up at the south stand end in the first half, and defender did something good, and Vicario did this incredibly performative running over to him and give him a big cuddle, and I just thought, just get on with your job.
Yeah.
That defender does not need that. No. He needs to feel that the goalkeeper behind him is secure and he can trust him. It just felt performative again.
It did, and also the fastest he moved in the entire match was after the second goal, and it went flying past him. He was up on his feet to remonstrate with everybody. That was the only time he was quick. He wanted to shout at the defenders for not closing down. So it couldn't possibly have been his fault. How could it possibly be? Anyway, let's moving on from Vicario. So let's have a chat about Thomas Frank. So Julie, you're having bad nightmares, as it turns out, about Thomas Frank. Are you beginning to, some of the good vibe beginning to tail off?
To be honest, even when he was hired, I wasn't particularly over the moon, I must say, partly because I thought that Iraola and Oliver Glasner are far better coaches. And I thought, I'm being unfair. He's brought Brentford up, to be a PL side. He's kept them in. He's had some good wins with them. He's progressive, nice hair.
Great hair.
All that sort of stuff. But I just think maybe he's, I can't believe I'm saying this. I wonder if he's actually a bit middle range, in fact. I think he might be being found out. Now he's in charge of a bigger profile team.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea. That is he's. I mean, he's. I think it's probably fair to say that he's now working with a better class of player, generally speaking, across the squad than he was at Brentford. I mean, Kev, is he still trying to make, what's the opposite of turning silk purses and cow's ears and all that stuff? He's doing it in reverse. So he's turning quality into kind of quotidian shit. Is that what's happening? Or is it just that, he hasn't had his best 11 yet and he can't quite put it all together yet?
I don't know. I mean, I think people have been making excuses that he doesn't know. He's still trying things out. He's still trying individuals out, trying ways of playing out. But he's got enough experience to be able to do that without experimenting. It did feel like an experiment, that team yesterday. In fact, every team has felt a bit like that, and I think he needs to decide. He was, to be honest with you, before the match, I was thinking, well done for showing faith in Tell and Odobert. I genuinely thought, okay, he's obviously seeing things in training. He's obviously seeing things in them that I haven't seen yet. And I thought that was a good thing. After the match, I sort of think, no, stop showing faith in people who aren't going to, you know. So, you know, he hasn't done this high-profile job before. You know, it's a horrendous job unless you're very good. But we should be doing better, and he should be managing better, I think, at the moment.
I mean, we have to remember that we've lost 2 matches in 9. We're 6th now. We're in, you know, we're doing all right in the Champions League. We're in the next round of the Carabao. So it's been a more than steady start. I think, Julie, the real issue for us sad fucks who support Spurs is that we're just not seeing much development. You know, we all got excited about Ange and his, you know, hell for leather, gung-ho nonsense. And then we're all now complaining about the kind of the steady Eddie you know, tactics of our new manager. Is it, I mean, there are not many teams that play with flair and blow the opposition away. And every week, I mean, you know, Man City did it for a few years. Liverpool have done it now and again, you know, but it's pretty hard to find, you know, to that balance of being devastating but also not losing every 5 minutes.
Yeah, but I think you can tell. You just get this sort of little feeling, this sort of little vibe if you think, oh yeah, this is going to work. And I haven't really got that since the early part of the season when Palhinha came in, and I thought, yeah, that's the right signing. But it just stalled. That's what I think's happened.
Yeah.
I mean, you can only make excuses for so long. Maybe now that Paratici is back, you know, we'll have a good January window. I don't know how much longer we've got to wait for Solanke, you know, the mysterious ankle injury that you know, is always just about to get better, but, you know, he's not back yet. Is he going to be back from Monaco? What's wrong with Romero? And I think it is significant that Romero's absence turned up, you know, it was a really kind of bad, shitty performance.
Yeah.
And that was largely due to the absence of Romero, who is, I would say, a class above most of the players in that squad, with the possible exception of Palhinha.
But perhaps we're underestimating the effect of that. You know, I mean, it's 10 minutes before a match and suddenly he's gone, you're one of your very best players and also a leader. And you bring in Danso, who I thought did okay. I mean, Danso's he's a decent defender and he works his socks off, but he's not Romero. So perhaps that's something we shouldn't underestimate. But still, look, we've decimated Thomas Frank. Frank out, Julie?
Not quite yet, but
not yet.
I'm reserving my options about Tom.
Kev, Frank out?
No, I'm still optimistic he'll turn it around.
Okay. All right. Listen, I'm Frank in. So, but then I probably hung on to Ange for too long, you know. So you've got to know when to let it go, haven't you? So, all right. Well, look, that's Frank sorted out. Now, Kev, we were having a bit of a to and fro on our Nice One Cyril WhatsApp group over the last few days regarding, you started the conversation regarding, I suppose, what we might call loosely modern football parlance. Give us a flavour.
It was the little thing that provoked it for me was Sky referring to this weekend as match day 8, which is so alien to me. It's not match day 8, and for 2 reasons it's annoying. One is that's just such a silly American way of looking at things, but also sometimes match days are on Friday, Saturday, Sunday and Monday, and so surely it should be match day 27 or whatever it does. So it's not even logical. And I know it's not a big thing, but it's so symbolic of this. I've been thinking actually today about what is it that most annoys me about the sort of jargon and this over scientific or pseudo scientific approach to football with XG and even assists.
Oh, yeah. All right. But there are lots of other bits of Americanism. And I mean, I can't deal with transition. Where's that come from? Transition. And you get Gary of Harlow talking about transition on X, and you think, shut up, Gary. You don't even know what it means, and it doesn't mean anything anyway. Then you have, what's the other one? Julie, assists. Come on, talk to me about assists.
I deplore the expression because it's an Americanism that has crept into our beautiful game, but it's actually quite useful, unfortunately. The one I really cannot stand, and you can see I'm clenching my fists in fury, is clutch. What the fuck does that mean? Clutch. It's part of your car, either manual or automatic. What does a clutch? It's crept in over the last 2 years. Please, please, please tell me what it means in proper English.
Kev, I don't know.
I haven't heard that one actually, but it's annoying me now. Now you've introduced me to it. It annoys me, but I don't know. I haven't heard. I don't like low blocks and high blocks. That's just irritating as well.
High lines, low lines. Honestly, shut up. You didn't have this in the old days, and we don't need it now. Well, all right. Well, look, we do need to revisit this because there's nothing that irritates me more, frankly, than these new phrases. Oh, the other one, I tell you which one. If I see it one more time on Twitter, I'm going to kill somebody. Generational.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, he's a generational talent. That was a generational moment. Shut up, Gary of fucking Harlow. It's not clever and it's not big. Stop it.
Simon,
all right.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think is Gary of Harlow and Gary of Chelmsford two different people?
Well, it's funny you should mention that because I did start this series with Gary of Chelmsford, and of course it turns out I did mean Gary of Harlow. But I think there's a Gary in Chelmsford who's equally fucking stupid. So
there's a Gary in Loughton and one in Woodford.
I think you're right. Although I do have to confess to being an Essex boy myself. So obviously long since cured, but still, there we are. Now, another thing we do need to talk about, Kev, the atmosphere at the ground. It wasn't bubbling, was it? It wasn't. There wasn't a great deal of excitement going on. Noise.
I walked in with my daughter, and it was the first thing she said. She said it's actually really quiet. So this is before the match, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about the psychology or the sociology of crowds. I think it means we were approaching it with the majority of people were approaching it with a little bit of, I don't know, apprehension maybe. There wasn't a real buzz before the match. Then, I mean, you'd think with that really good start, then that would really raise the levels, and it didn't seem to. Things did fall flat. I don't know. I don't know what makes the difference. Actually, when was the last home match? Felt much better atmosphere.
Was that Wolves? I can't remember. Was it Wolves? Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know why. It's interesting sort of looking at tweets with some people blaming the team for not getting the fans going and others blaming the fans for not getting the team going. But it may say something about those, maybe the creeping doubts about Frank, the sort of worry that, maybe this isn't a totally new era. It's a continuation of, what we've been putting up for a few years, I don't know.
Yeah, I think all of that plays into this, I think. I mean, I very rarely cheer and sing and all that stuff. I mean, just sticking with Gary of Harlow, stroke Chelmsford, stroke Loughton for a second, those tweets that come out, this is what we should all do at the match. Get behind your team, shout and scream. And I think, well, no, do you know what? I'm going to support my team in the way that I think is appropriate to me. But Julie, we're all of a certain age. Is it appropriate for us to be screaming our lungs out and swearing? Is that right, or are we entitled? Have we earned the right to sit in silence and just sort of quietly stress?
I think that having been sort of spent the years of my adulthood in the ivory tower of the press box, of course, where you have to be very quiet and not show your support for any team. I suppose I've never been any, and I'm just too inhibited, honestly, to shout or scream. I mean, when a goal is scored against us, I just quietly mutter, "Oh, fuck," and on with the day. And also the worst thing I find is having a shouter next to me. Drives me potty. So from that point of view, that's maybe counterproductive. That my feelings don't matter. It's whether the shouter is actually getting behind our team and all that. And maybe the players are inspired by this foul-mouthed person beside me. I don't know. Perhaps it's just, perhaps it's just because I'm a lady, that I was brought up not to scream at people in that way.
I do want to relate a story that I went to Wembley for Spurs Portsmouth FA Cup semi, which we lost 2-0, as I recall. Was it 2-0? No, hang on, 2-0, yeah. Or was it 1-0? Anyway, it doesn't really matter. We lost. And I was sitting next to this old granddad, probably in his mid to late 70s, and he was with his, I assume was his grandson. But we were on the cusp of where we Spurs fans meet the Portsmouth fans with a few seats in between to separate us. And the grandson was standing up and shouting at me, fuck off, Portsmouth, fuck off. And Granddad sort of pulled him down and said, son, he said, don't do that, because it's not nice. And then about 10 minutes from the end, the Granddad got up and went, you fucking cunts! I might have to bleep that out. Anyway, moving on. Let's have a little chat, shall we, about modern players pulling, just pulling their hair before a match or at some point during the week, and then they're out for a month. Julie, are modern players pussies? That was the question you put to me on our group.
I mean, firstly, let me say, I hope that there's nothing serious wrong with Romero, because otherwise we are absolutely fucked. I go back to 1981 FA Cup final, Manchester City, first leg. It was a nightmare for us for various well-charted reasons. Graham Roberts, what a hero! He got a kick in the face. I think it was Chris Hughton, friendly fire, and he lost a lot of teeth as well as a lot of blood, and he got a concussion. The half-time break went in. They said, no, Graham, you can't go out, your head's gone and everything. And he just sort of said, pour a bucket of cold water over me. And he went out and played the second half, and he played in extra time. I mean, what a hero. The only thing I will say is, I've always wanted to ask him, what happened to your teeth? Whereabouts on the sacred turf are they? Are they still there somewhere?
It's a little teeth tree growing somewhere now. I mean, it's they don't make them like Graham Roberts anymore, do they, Kev? I mean, we go further back. I mentioned in the intro, Dave Mackay was made of granite. Pat Vandenhauwe, if someone broke his leg, he wouldn't give him the joy of knowing that he'd broken his leg. He would get up and play on and say, you can't hurt me. What's changed? Are modern players just too pampered?
I think so. I think there's wider cultural changes as well, I think, isn't there? And football has become more middle class, and the whole game has shifted. The attitudes have shifted. I think there is a pampering of players because they're worth so much to so many very wealthy people. So I suspect if that had happened to Graham Roberts now, then God, wouldn't it be good if he still played for us somehow?
Yeah.
Can we bring him back? Then he would absolutely, no way would he be able to make that decision himself. The decision would be made by the people who essentially own him. No, you're not continuing. I don't think it means that the individual players are any less tough than they were, but they're unable to play, to battle in the way that they used to, because they're too valuable, I think.
Yeah, and of course we have the sort of concussion protocols and all that sort of thing going on now, which can only be a good thing, of course. Just on a side note, Graham Roberts, do you remember when he joined the club from, was it Torquay or something?
Weymouth.
Weymouth, near enough, on the coast. And he was shit. And we all thought, why have we bought this clogging idiot who can't control a sack of cement? And then he suddenly transformed, Julie, didn't he, into kind of a very, very hard Pele.
Him and Maxi Miller together. Centre-back pairing ever. They were really hard men. They didn't take any prisoners. God, they were a pleasure to watch. I mean, Spurs even then had that sort of reputation of being a bit wet, and they just sort of said, no way. They were such fun to watch. And I just, that's the sort of football that I really miss. people, Alan Mullery kicking opponents into the stands and things like that. Where's it gone? Where's it gone? I just miss it so much.
Yeah.
I hear you. I mean, I think saying that, people like Mullery and Graham Roberts, they actually had a bit of finesse as well. I mean, they could kill people.
Absolutely.
Well,
But, you think of Roberts in the UEFA Cup final with that deft outside of the foot finish. I mean, he could play.
One of the great moments of my life, I just want to say this, was my 60th birthday. My partner and my friends had chipped in to get Graham Roberts and Mickey Hazard to come along, and I didn't know. And the doorbell went, and they sort of rushed me to the door to open. And I opened the door, and there was Graham Roberts there. And I had this, it was just such an exciting moment, but also a slightly terrifying moment because don't do anything to upset him.
Yeah.
And it was just, he was such a nice guy. And
absolutely. As is Mickey Hazard.
And
yeah, they're good guys.
Just wonderful.
Well, let me just get one thing in about, modern pussies. I remember when Son fractured his arm, and he actually played a couple of games with his fractured arm.
He did.
Twice, I think.
Against Villa, of course.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, those are the days.
Yeah.
But so, Son, definitely not a pussy.
Not a
really
pussy.
A brave heart.
Well, okay. Well, he can join a very exclusive modern club. I just wanted, I did mention this also in the monologue, getting into the ground. Julie, you don't attend that often, but Kev, we go every week, come rain, shine and misery and all the rest of it. Getting in, right? I go up some stairs and then I have to go through a security thing. I always get in the wrong queue because some twat at the front is like emptying the pockets and can't find the thing, or something's beeping. Anyway, I get in the wrong queue. Takes me 10 minutes to get through that bit. And of course, they never even look at me because I'm old, right? So they kind of go and they just wave me through. And then I get to the turnstile, and some idiot, usually a tourist, can't get his ticket to work on the turnstile.
Might be
so I'm stuck in
as well.
Okay. All right. Well,
I hold it up the wrong way every time. My daughter's rage. She actually tries to prepare me to actually hold my phone the right way up. I never do it, and then I can hear people tutting behind me.
Yeah. So you're that old codger.
It's me. I am.
There we are.
Yes.
That's interesting because, eventually, and of course, the thing with me is then I sort of you gradually get to the front, and then it's the one in front of you who can't get through, right? So there's that, and then eventually, you put your phone to the thing, and when it comes up green, it's like you've won the lottery. I've got in. It shouldn't be this hard, Julie. It shouldn't be this hard to get in. You remember the old days? You had a ticket. You just gave it to some miserable sod at the turnstile, and then you went.
The hell doesn't end there. I love the fact that they have an enormous number of ladies' loos in the new stadium. It's wonderful. But the flush is absolutely terrifying. I mean, you wouldn't know this, but I look at it and I don't know how to work it. I mean, I'm just a coelacanth basically. What can't you just have a handle?
I think we can safely blame Levy for that. I mean, I think he personally selected the sanitary ware for the ladies' toilets, so we know where to play.
Did have last season. This happened twice. My iPhone was frozen when the steward sort of aimed his zappy thing at my phone, and the phone froze. So I had no access to the ticket, so I couldn't get in at all. I then had to go up the other end, up to the old Paxton office, and get a ticket. This was, there was a queue of about half an hour as well. So both times, this happened twice. Both times I was late and missed the start of the match. And it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened probably for about a year now. But every time I go, I think it's going to happen again. I've no idea. It doesn't seem to have happened to anyone else. But
it smacks of Levy, all this. It smacks of Levy.
The other thing which really, really annoys you can only have a bag of a certain size. It's got to be a.
Yeah.
I just think, all I want to do is watch a game of football, and then there's so much extra stress. And if I can remember one occasion, I think it might even have been the first PL game at the Lane, and I just turned up with my backpack and I couldn't get in, and I had to, at a cost, leave it at some sort of little booth outside the ground, and then I had to reclaim it afterwards, and I thought that's bloody Levy, isn't it?
That's definitely.
But it's
Yeah.
just stress, isn't it? Just having to worry about, the size of a bag, or just have a coat with an enormous number of kangaroo-sized pockets or something like that, so you don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I cycle to the ground, and I have to wear the big coat because how else am I going to get all the chocolate in? I've got my keys, I've got my phone. There's a lot of stuff that has to be smuggled in.
Yeah.
The one other thing I just wanted to quickly talk about before we talk about the matches, the upcoming matches, something that really pisses me off in the modern game is when a player scores against his old club and he does that thing with the hands, right? Like I'm not celebrating. I'm not celebrating because too much respect for the fans here. I had a few good years here and I've done too much respect, so I'm just not gonna. And I think, for fuck's sake, you moved. You took the move. You took the money because you don't care about those fans. You care about your career, which is right. But then celebrate that goal like your life depends on it. Kev, am I right, or am I just being an old git again?
I've never thought of it before. I think for me it depends on who does it and who the teams involved are. So
Yeah.
I remember Paul Robinson coming back a few years ago, and there was such good sort of banter between the fans and him,
Yeah.
and that sort of mutual respect was great. But I mean, to be fair, he didn't score. So no, yeah.
Did he do that thing when he made a good save? He just did the hands. I'm not celebrating.
Yeah, so I get what you're saying. I think it's one of those annoying performative. There's so many of these little
Isn't it?
things now.
God, it is. It's we've talked about these before. The kissing the finger and pointing to the sky, and I don't do that on my watch. I really. I think Frank Lampard started the pointing to the sky after his mum died, but to keep doing it for the next 7 years, I mean, come on. Enough. She can see all your goals. You don't have to keep pointing it out to her. All right, look, now let's have a quick chat. Kev, you are our European football expert.
Yeah. I like to think.
Let's just quickly take us through from 1 to 11, the Monaco team.
I do know Eric Dyer is injured, so won't be playing. I did my homework before this podcast.
Very impressive.
Yeah, Eric Dyer. They do also have Paul Pogba, who also is out. And they sacked their manager a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Oddly, because they were in 7th place, so I'm not quite sure what the politics were behind that, but they weren't happy with it. They're now 5th, so they've actually improved since then. That's absolutely all I was able to read before we start this.
Well, listen, that was pretty useful. And so they're kind of in the middle of a new manager bounce, just in time to play us. Okay, I was going to go to this game actually. I could get a ticket, but it turned out any hotel and within 10 miles of the ground was going to cost about £700 just to walk through the entrance. Never mind have a room. So I thought, yes, we're only going to lose 2-0. So what's the point? Julie, Monaco. Let's move on from Monaco because we do have the match against Everton at the weekend. It's just one of those, isn't it? You can imagine us doing to them what we did to Leeds and just turning up and playing some football. You can equally imagine us, like we did last year, going 3-0 down after about 8 minutes and then sort of clawing our way back and coming up short. What's your feeling about Everton? Because they're not much cop, are they?
They will be. There'll be an awful lot of cop against us, I'm sure. It's just going to be one of those days. I have neither optimism nor pessimism. I'm just going to be completely zen about it. I think that we'll be lucky to get a 1-1. But that said, as I've maintained before, I'm really bad at predicting results. And so if I say we'll lose 2-0, then we'll do them 4-0.
Wow, okay.
I've hedged my bets.
All right, well, okay. I don't know where we are with that. You've lost me at some point there between winning and losing, but you didn't mention drawing, which is kind of what I think is going to happen. Kev, what's your
I'm going
take?
for both matches being a draw, and I'd sort of be okay with that. I think, yeah, two draws. We'll be lucky in one of them to get a draw, and the other one would be really well.
So you would, so if it was offered to you, because there was a point during the second half when I thought, oh, Villa are getting on top of us. Just going back to Villa for a second, and I thought I'd take a draw now. I'd take a draw, which is not what I ever really do before a match. But once you get into a match, you think, oh, come on, we're only going to concede. We're not going to score. And if we're holding a team, I think let's take it. I'll take it. I don't want to go through the misery of watching us fuck it up towards the end. But so let's do this then. Kev, you're thinking Monaco and Everton draws. Okay, and Julie, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Let's have some score lines.
All right, 0-1 Monaco, 4-0 Everton.
To us?
Yeah.
I love it. I'm going for a defeat in Monaco. Narrow defeat at Everton. I think it's a draw. It's looking like a draw to me. So, as I haven't yet got anything right, hopefully I'm wrong about both of those. We win both the matches. Well, look, that's it. We've covered an awful lot of ground today, I think, and not all of it relevant. But still, that's what we're here for. That's our job. So I want to thank Julie Welch and, of course, Kevin Acott. We'll be back next week after all of those matches, and we can see who was right and who was wrong. Have a great week. Come on, you Spurs.
Nice One Cyril.